The first night in Rendlesham Forest was cold enough to make breath look like smoke. Beyond the east gate of RAF Woodbridge, two young security airmen saw a pulse of color moving among the pines, white, then red, then blue, like a heartbeat slipping from tree to tree. It was the early hours of December 26, 1980. The sister base at RAF Bentwaters sat a few miles away. Radios crackled. The duty flight chief gave permission to check it out. Staff Sergeant Jim Penniston led the patrol. Airman First Class John Burrows and Airman Edward Cabansag followed, stepping across the drainage ditch and into the black timber. The farther they went, the more the base fell away behind them. Runway lights drowned by branches, generators replaced by the wind. A distant beacon at Orford Ness blinked with metronomic patience, but this light was closer, lower, and wrong. It drifted behind trunks and seemed to settle. They reached a small clearing where frost silvered the grass. The birds had gone silent. The air felt charged, like the moment before lightning. Penniston later said a dark, triangular object stood there at waist height, edges glowing, its skin warm under his glove and marked with small, raised symbols. Burrows hung back, eyes watering, as if heat rolled from the thing. Cabansag, fighting static on the radio, saw only bursts through the trees. Then the light rose without sound, moved up through the lattice of branches, and shot away. At first light they returned. In the soil, they found 3 shallow depressions in a triangle, and branches snapped above. A borrowed Geiger counter ticked slightly higher over the indentations than over nearby ground. Nothing dangerous, but enough to note. Suffolk police arrived, watched the Orford Ness lighthouse throw its steady blink, and reported that the light the men saw might have been that beam cutting through mist and trunks. On base, some later said an incident log page disappeared, though the paper trail has never settled that claim. 2 nights later, December 28th, a different team stepped into the forest, led by Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, the deputy commander. He carried a handheld tape recorder and an airman with a radiation meter. His voice on the tape is steady and clipped. Bearings, distances, numbers. In the same clearing, the meter rose and fell. Small peaks at the depressions, normal a few steps away. Through the trees, a strobing light appeared again, drifting, splitting, rejoining. "It's coming this way," Halt said once, not quite masking the strain. They crossed to the field edge. The coastal air smelled of salt and mud. The lighthouse pulsed its patient rhythm, easy to time. The other light flickered on an offbeat, quick, then gone, then back further down the line of hedges, as if tracking parallel to the ground. High overhead, bright points seemed to shed red and green, then resolve into simple stars again. Halt narrated each step, and the tape caught boot scuffs in frozen grass, men speaking too low to make out, and the rising excitement when a sharp burst leapt and died. Back inside, Halt wrote a memo dated January 13th, 1981, subject line, "Unexplained Lights." In 2 brisk paragraphs, he summarized both nights. The impressions measured in inches, the higher meter ticks, the moving lights that appeared to emanate from a bright object and fall to the ground. He included a sketch of the site. The Ministry of Defense noted the report, found no threat to national security, and filed it away. Officially, nothing more was required. Unofficially, the story refused to settle. Burrows kept asking questions, later linking the encounter to health problems. Penniston said the contact imprinted a string of 1s and 0s in his memory, which he claimed to have written down after he got home. Skeptics pointed out that none of that appeared in the statements taken that week. Cabansag kept to the least. He saw lights, he heard radio trouble, he followed orders in the dark. Explanations arrived with maps and star charts. Skeptical investigators walked the same line from the clearing to the sea and showed how the lighthouse beam could look like a moving source when seen through winter trees, especially if fog and stress were in play. Astronomers noted that the Ursid meteor shower had just peaked. Stray fireballs in the following days could flare low and vanish, exactly the kind of thing a tense patrol might read as maneuver. Sirius, blue-white and near the horizon in December, can twinkle in red and green and seem to jump. Suffolk police logs from that week listed nothing beyond strange lights and closed the matter. The radiation peaks, others argued, were within ordinary background noise. And yet the tape exists. Halt's recorder gives you the cadence of that night, numbers called out from a meter, bearings read under a shivering breath, the clipped "there it is again," when a light returns where a light shouldn't be. The memo exists. Measurements exist. The 3 ground marks existed long enough to be measured and photographed. To reduce everything to lighthouse and stars explains much, but not the choice a deputy commander made to leave his desk, with instruments and witnesses, and then write an official report. The years added edges. Retellings grew sharper than the original statements. Drawings of the craft took on glossy panels and precise glyphs. The binary claim gained pages. Memory is a machinist, tightening, scraping, polishing, until what remains fits the holder's sense of things. The original record is smaller and more human. 3 airmen startled in the woods, a superior trying to keep rumor from outrunning discipline, tools that twitched but did not alarm, and a lighthouse that still throws a patient blink over marsh and field. Walk Rendlesham now, and you'll find waymarked trails and a panel calling the case Britain's Roswell. The resemblance is mostly soldiers and lights. The scale is different. Storms have thinned the trees since 1980. New growth crowds old paths. Stand in late winter dusk and the forest inhales. Somewhere beyond the trunks you can taste the sea. A plane passes far above with a regular white strobe, the kind Halt's tape captured in the background. If you're willing, you can imagine 3 shallow marks in the brittle ground, and the silence after a flock of birds startles and goes quiet. Whatever drifted, or appeared to drift, through that stand of pines left no wreckage, no recovered metal, no clear cause. What it left was a set of artifacts that resist one another, a calm recording, a careful memo, sketches and measurements, and opposite them, maps, sightlines, star data, and the mundane insistence of a lighthouse's clockwork blink. Between those piles stands a small forest, and the men who had to choose how to act inside it. Maybe that is why the story endures. Procedure met fear, and neither won. The men did what their training demanded: investigate, measure, report, secure the perimeter, return to station. And yet they also carried home a feeling that did not fit the forms. Years later, when the tape is played, you can still hear the breath and the boots and the quiet admission inside the narration that some nights refused to be reduced to a line on a log. Back on base, silence settled in official corridors. The duty day resumed. Aircraft cycled. Reports were typed and routed. Off-duty, the witnesses compared notes and then stopped, warned by custom and chain of command to let the matter rest. The forest did not. Wind pressed the crowns, and at night the same sight lines waited for any watcher stubborn enough to test them again. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. Subscribe for more true stories, if you dare.